Yes, we want to start the stream. Oh, wait. RIP! I forgot to check if the camera is even working here. 1 second. Ignore the logo of the capture card. There we go. Now it is working. Welcome back to Adventures in spending lots of time doing stuff other than being productive, with the idea that one day it would be productive. This has been a year-long series. Anyways. Yeah. So let's see where we were at. Actually, I think I made a desktop note on... there it is. Okay, flashbang warning. You can literally see the brightness in my room. Okay. Now, where was I in terms of actually doing stuff? Okay. Reassign existing variables, closure variable capturing, branching with match expressions, looping with while loop expression, and implementing array types. We've kind of half done this. It's now... They exist in our runtime. Actually... We need to write a garbage collector at some point. All of our stuff is written with the assumption that we have a garbage collector. We do not. And let's see, reassign existing variables. Closure, variable capturing, branching. Back at the grind. No, this is relaxing. This is the relaxing coding. But yeah, let's just do reassign existing variables, because I'm going to assume that my stuff is just working, right? Maybe? Let's see. Spect object found int. Wasn't this... What was causing this? The BP. Right. It was overwriting the argument. Yeah. Actually, I can fix that real fast. I'm gonna do a quick and dirty fix for that. Where, I'm gonna say strip function arguments if needed. So we'll create a form of function definition. Actually, no, do we want to explicitly have to define every single function argument? Do we want that? Nah. We'll figure it out when we actually need it, which might be soon, might not be soon, but we'll find out. So, where do we call... Where do I need to actually implement this? We need to implement this in VM push function stack. in here, and if this is an object already, here in the array scenario, we don't need to strip arguments. In the case of object calling, we do need to strip arguments. We're actually going to grab the object. Then we're going to say target values like this. We're going to say object from members, but cannot find value ID arg values. We'll rename this to ID. That. No type object on type virtual machine. That should do it, right? Yeah, there it is. Now we'll just implement a public function members. Takes in a reference to self and returns an implementation, something that implements an iterator of item. We want to do, yeah, we want to do reference object member. And then we can just do self members. Ooh. Let's say iterate members for now. Members iterator. Now here we can do object from members, args members, I don't need to make a weird getter because we're in the same file. I can just directly access it even though it's not public. And then let's do filter. If let's do func if rams contains member parameter if m label is equal to p which parameters right now are just a label name, which while I know that, I'll write that. It's easy to understand, so if it contains a parameter label, then we're going to do... We don't need to do a filter map here, actually. We can just do... It'd be cleaner to do map clone instead of mapping and cloning in the same one, so we'll just do cloned, collect. Does this expect a vector or an iterator? It expects a vector, okay, so we need to collect this. It's proof the slice contains an element with a given value. Contains reference T. Ooh. That work. Returns a reference. Returns. Wait. Map. I want to just filter. That's why I was complaining about wanting a reference. Okay. Then usize. Why is this? I was sure that contains took a predicate, but I guess just takes an object. So we'll just have to do with iter find, which should be as efficient. Only problem is it returns a returns an optional, so we just need to turn the optional into a bool. I don't even have that to give. The answer is physically no, I can't give you that, even if I wanted to. Clone is not satisfied. The trait clone is not implemented for object member. Is it not? We can fix that real fast. Watch this. It worked. First try. Got the correct answer and fixed the bugs. We now strip function arguments correctly. Do that for done. Actually, which one was it in .plan files? Was it this one or this one? So now we need to get reassign existing variables working for this. Which is like that. Wait a second, why did it work? That shouldn't have worked, actually. Wait a second, was it grabbing A from the pre-existing environment? I think it was, so let's... Go back to being broken. There we go. Undefined variable A2. What do you mean undefined variable A2? Here's one of the arguments. Right, because I stripped argument values. But somehow I need to... Instead of doing this fancy iterator thing, instead what we're going to do is initialize an argvalues structure to instead be... I don't use AI because I actually prefer writing code. I enjoy it. It's fun, if you can believe it. I don't care about how easy it is. I intentionally seek out the hardest coding that I can do because I find it enjoyable. And also because they suck at doing this sort of thing that I'm doing, and I would just have to rewrite it for it. They wouldn't do it the way that I want it to. It would do it in... They're not good at that. Numbers, funcdef parameters. That's the right. What did you size? I would do it. I don't know who any of these people you're referencing are, so no, I will not be able to collaborate with them. Okay, so this gives us a base structure that has everything actually defined in the first place, and then we just need to do for arg in X, I guess, and say values set member object into iterator. Oh. I guess at this point, would it let me just consume it? I guess. Arg label arg value. That should work. Now the error we should get is that A2 was nothing. So just behind a shared reference. We don't need it to be behind a shared reference. Oh, right, because we're doing the whole... Right, garbage collected thing. Okay. Did I implement copy for this? I did not. Clone copy for value. So we can get away without a clone here. Okay. So let's just test this. Do we get the error we want now? Expected object found int. Here, find value at function 1, 1. We're trying to find the value C returns int 3. Where do we define C? Define C here to be B. So it's still finding it as a function argument. It shouldn't be finding it as a function argument. For arg in arg members. Oh, you know what I should do? Right, we want to do this the other way around. What to do? For each parameter in function def parameters, we want to do arg values set member param if let some value or is equal to args get member param. There we go. Now we're actually filtering. It's a member value, right? Or, right, okay, it's an option value. Recognize that text. Are you just copying from my Twitter? Why are you doing that? All indirect. Stack extern function array 1 expected interflow. Where did I code that? That might be the error I was going for. This is a runtime error. Oh, wait a second. I have to... Why am I not finding that text? There it is. What file is this then? Oh, this is in main. Okay, so this is not actually my virtual machine. These are my external functions. Type name in there. Run that. Then found A, nothing. B, nothing. Okay. And then that's add being called. Which, if we look here, right. Because both of those were nothing. And A int B nothing. Okay, this is now working the way that I want it to. My error messages were just terrible. Okay. So now we don't have that error anymore. So now I need to get reassignment of existing variables working. And this will break our code temporarily, actually doing that. And then we need to add in closure variable capturing, which will then fix the code, because it will remove workarounds that were making it not work before. Okay. Closure variable capturing. That's what I want to do next, but we're going to do this. Where do we want to add this in? Add it in after member access. Or do we add it in with inside of member access? I'm gonna have to do something a little jank to actually get this to work, because with assigning existing variables, what we need to do is not have like an object and then assign to the object. We need to assign to a member of an object. So here, instead of doing what we're doing right now, which is immediately grabbing the value of anytime we use a member access syntax, we need to always remember the last member label that we accessed, which let's see, if we just do the syntax we're doing, which isn't a member of C, if we just say C is equal to 2, that, with the idea I'm working with right now, that wouldn't work. So we just find a value right away. Which isn't what we want to do. Instead, what we want to do is Do I do something jank with closures here? We can say require L value and require R value. And in the case of require left value, L value is a value that we can assign to. So in the case of L value, if has root object, it is possible to do what I'm thinking. The problem is I have to treat it weirdly for the base case. So basically, if it's a case like this, then we need to assign to a local stack variable. But if it's a case like this, we need to assign to an object member instead. Did I end up creating a custom syntax for either of these? Not a custom syntax, custom operation. So we find value that just works. Takes in object. Is that actually what this does? Do I use it anywhere? Let that local member. Okay. So I think better name for this will just be set value. And we're going to put this right next to find value, because they're paired operations. We have member label. I guess we can go off of member label. This is our root object label. And if member label is not set, and we require a left value, let's say set current value to value. Push left value. Push what's needed for an assignment. Push. Push whatever value we're pointing towards. Okay, so if we push L value, we want to check if let some member label this will implement a function once. Only allowed. Is not allowed enclosure arguments. The implement trait is only allowed in arguments, and there are 10 types of functions and methods. Dang it. So I can't get away with this just being closure. Context, the value we want to emit in the member label. Which is no symbol ID. Dang, and I do need no. There's a lot of content. Context have a reference to VM? No, it doesn't. Yes, instead, this is gonna be put. We're gonna put this into context as a helper function. This doesn't work because there's going to be circular references. I want to do fancy deferred thing, but fancy deferred thing doesn't want to be done. So we're gonna say let mutable var path is equal to vec self intern symbol var name, and I'm gonna re-implement this everywhere that we need to use it, because that's the easiest thing to do. Of course, we could do find, instead of find value and set value, instead we could just keep find value, and then whenever you set value, you could explicitly get it from the global object by doing find value global, but set value should be significantly more efficient than doing that. Oh. We're gonna have a mutable variable path, and then in here, we're gonna do context next if actually, no, I can resolve L value and resolve R value with this. Let resolve R value is that's the easy one. All we have to do is say, well, since we know that the length of this vec is never going to be 0, we can just say let resolve R value push constant string. The constant string will just be var path 0. And assert the var path is not empty. Actually, that won't work. We need to define a new error here, which is just can't assign to result of function. Oh. If our path is empty, return error runtime error context not token pose. Is it context? Because we're parsing right now. Top index would be none then. Or would it be 0? Did I? Okay, I didn't make that optional. I need to make this be able to be a, actually this needs to be a parse error then. So instead of what's going on? Okay. Instead, this is going to be a parse error. I'm gonna just change this to grammar error. Yes. No, we're not. Can I just define this inline like this? I do Okay, then here we can do parse error. Trying to result a function at context. The current span, because that's the best I got. Okay, now let's see, and then we can do let move resolve root equals false, and then if we have not resolved a root in the past, we're gonna do this. Start index is going to be 1 in this case, else it's going to be 0. And then for I in start index until bar path length. In this case, we're going to say resolved root equals true. So the only ever time we actually resolve the root variable is the first time we call this in that loop, basically. Then we want to push operation bar path I. So this pushes the variable that we need to access from the implicit object. Implicitly pushed earlier, and then we want to context push op ir op get member, which consumes 2 values, this label and the implicitly earlier pushed object. Okay, now push and here's the one that's hard. Object and label for a value to be assigned to, and returns the operator to be called or to be pushed after the value. usage. Oh, value. I barely understand what I'm doing here. So we call this function here, and then your code to create and push a value. Oh, right, actually, let set op equal resolve all value. Then context. It's okay. Learning Rust isn't. I guess Rust is kind of trendy to know now, but it's not like. Not super. It's mid-common now. I can't say it's super uncommon. Context, push, op, set, op. Just like that. Hopefully those comments mean I don't forget how I wrote my own code in the future. My camera's half unplugging itself when I shake the desk. That's not concerning at all. Okay. So now instead of all this, what we need to figure out is we need to leave one trailing label. So we're gonna say if var path dot length is equal to 1. We have only one like variable in this path. And here's where we need to optionally potentially return a intermediate operator. Length is equal to 1. We don't need to do an else statement because that will just be return if we have resolved the root. Okay, if resolved root, then we need to just do return IR operator, get member as normal, otherwise we want to, I guess we don't need to do otherwise. Oh, it's fine. Fine, it works. Resolve root equals true, and then we return IR op set values, so we implicitly grab the root value, and this needs to be resolved. So this is okay, this is not an error. Okay, so if instead our variable path is multiple, then we need to check once again if we have resolved the root. I guess we will do start index. I actually need to do there's a cleaner way to do this. There has to be a cleaner way to do this. This is what we're going to do, is we're going to do that instead of all this weirdness. Then inside of here, oh dang, I still need to do all of these inside of this if statement. Return a tuple here, and we're gonna just push a label to start out. Then resolved root will be true. You won't return find value. Instead, we're going to say last set op is IR op find value. And then last label doesn't matter because we already pushed it. Then we don't do find value. I'm gonna make these mutable. Not less last set op. Find start index to variable path length. So if there is context push op last set op, and this actually needs to be get because we're getting value. Oh. In alternative events, I actually need to do both get and set here. No. This is resolve L value. We don't need to do... We do need to do set, because we need to tell them which value to use to set it as a return value. So we should never push last set op, but we should put last get op. Then for every single element, remaining element in this vector, we should do context push op last get op, because we're getting the next object in the chain, and then we're pushing the label L value, and then we're setting last get op last set op, because last set up is our return value, to ir op set member, because if the last one was the root value, then we need to override these. So we're just going to override every single iteration of the loop. Yeah. We also need to do the get op. Then we can return last set op here. And I should be able to delete this case, because that should account for everything. Okay, I hope I never have to touch this code again, because I'm not going to remember how it works. I mean, I will, but not for long. Okay. So, inside of... Wait. Okay, yeah. So we have our variable path. We have if we resolved a root, which I don't need to touch that outside of here, so that's nicely abstracted to where I don't have to touch it all the time. So now, if we have a dot token, so we're like accessing a variable, we don't want to immediately do this whole like push and get member. We instead want to do var path push member ident, which is, oh, that's token. Do I have a way to member unwrap ident? Okay. Yeah, so var path push, that's when we intern the symbol from the token. Then we don't get member, so that will happen later. Now, if we're doing a function call, then this function call context is expecting there to already be a callable on the stack as the first argument of this. So what we're going to push, we're actually going to resolve a R value here. Dang it, Rust, why do you have to make this hard on me? I borrow bar path as mutable because it's also borrowed as immutable. Do I have to intern any things in there? I don't. So we're going to turn this into a non-capturing function. Because Rust is mad because in the event that we multi-thread this could cause problems. We're never going to multi-thread it, but if we did, it could cause problems, and therefore is not provably memory safe. So we need to do... Oh, I forgot. At the end of both of these, we need to... clear the variable path. So we need a reference to context. We need a reference to notable reference to... This is such bad code. This should be like a structure we create called like variable path, as these as member values and all of that, but I don't want to. We're just gonna do it the horrendous way instead. And then we have resolve root, which is a immutable reference to a boolean. Yeah, I've already told ValeVR News this is Rust, but I don't know how much coding experience they have. I'm doing don't do this at home code right now. Don't do as I do code. I'm writing code that should be written into a function, but instead I'm defining functions inside another function because I'm too lazy to define an entire structure. And I wasn't able to do it with capturing lambdas because Rust borrow checker didn't like. So I'm making them full functions that just take every single variable I wanted to capture instead. usually like, I usually write code that Rust likes. Okay, but now here we need to do move var path move resolve, and then we can just pass in context as is. And now it will be happy. All of this because I don't want to actually create an AST. So I'm like going super extra on the parser itself because I don't want to have to write another data structure to transform into another data structure, to transform into another data structure, to transform into another data structure. I want to cut out one of the data structures because I don't want to deal with it. So instead I'm making life harder on myself because I don't want to have to write 400 lines of boilerplate or more. Okay, so now we need... down here, I believe if var path is not empty, we need to resolve our value. Because this is a return value. See no major problems with this? I would see major problems with this if I wasn't the one writing the code. I would be like, I would be using language. Okay, I need to... we need to do variable assignment. So we need to do context next if nothing really matters. But in this case, it will matter eventually if I actually keep working on this project, or maybe it won't. Or maybe in 5 years I'll just have an intern rewrite it for me, because it actually does become our project. But that doesn't seem likely. Next, if expected token kind is equal, if this is equal, then don't need to do ident. We just need to not do this either. We need to do resolve L value with the same arguments as resolve R value. I love compiler terms that are really hard to remember. Yeah. 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 I would just refactored it anyway. So now after we've resolved the object that we're going to assign to, the label that we're going to assign... actually, wait. Let set up. We might have not resolved the object that we need to assign to, which is why we need a set operation command to tell us which one of the operations to use. The one to set variables in the global or the local scope, or the one to set a member of an object. So now, why are my siblings being so loud? Let's see. Got a code stream open while writing code and playing Helldivers. How are you writing code and playing Helldivers? Like the code stream, like yeah, I'm doing the code stream. But like, how are you playing Helldivers while you like Claude coding it up? I didn't really see you as a Claude coder. Maybe a cursor user, but not a cloud coder. Me when I call in a stratagem to write hello world. I don't remember it. Hey Jarvis, code me a sandwich. Okay, so here we need to do self parse expression. Hopefully just parsing an expression will emit all of the variables. It will emit the value that I need to set to this thing and just leave the stack all clean to actually, for that to work. I love my functions magically interacting with each other through global state instead of through return values. And then we just do context, push, op, set, op. Beautiful. This might not immediately blow up in my face. So Theo. Well, you see, Theo actually ships things. Have you shipped things? I guess you have that whole, like, streaming project that you actually, like the Beyond streaming thing, which is, we'll admit, pretty cool. So we're going to test out both of the possibilities of using this. With the possible different ways to use this. Z is equal to object, all of this. We have you. Technically, open sourcing things counts as shipping, right? I've shipped on the teams I'm a part of. Solo dev, yeah, I haven't shipped too much. I shipped wirewiz.com. That I shipped a lot there. The question is your streaming product better than Pimax's streaming product? I guess it's your project, not product. Oh, there you go. Does that mean that Pimax's is even worse? Is just completely unshippable in your opinion? I just realized I can just return twice. I don't have the static validation. So my syntax, my parsing currently breaks if I try to put comments into my code. So yeah. So instead of commenting out this code, I'm just going to return before the code runs. Both are equal. Well, there's just markers. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, moment of truth. Does this explode my computer? Top index 33, kind empty stack. Interesting. Wait a second. I know what happened. None of this hot garbage blew up. It was this. If the path was empty, it's still expecting a value, so I have to context push op IR operation push IR not IR value nothing. No. Const IR constant nothing. I need to push nothing onto the stack. And after I push nothing onto the stack, it will work. It worked. Iterate and reiterate. Scope creep, never get anything to the point I'm ever truly happy with. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Okay, now I need to write a... I can't actually tell if my result is correct, so now I need to implement a function that prints things. We're gonna do pub function dump value. And this is going to be self. It's going to return a string. I could have this print the console, but whatever. Yeah, that is the nice part about open source. This is just shipped. I think I've kind of gone to the point where, like, I want to actually ship things more, he says as he writes a custom scripting language. So because of that, I'm like not open sourcing what I'm working on, because if it's not open source, I don't have to perfectionist it, if that makes sense. And I can focus more on the end result I'm trying to get. Actually, format right? Writing format into Unicode. Byte-oriented syncs. Okay, we're gonna do this. So nothing. Write. Writer. Nothing. And oh, dang it. Get the eyeballs to use the OSU format, so that one, use that control flow iteration. Like writing stuff for open source repos, it gives me reasons to go, okay, do this one. I guess that does make sense. Usually the stuff I ship for open source projects is usually smaller nature, like that. Yeah, instead of like me going like, oh, I want to create my own custom build toolchain, and I want to write everything in C, but I don't like C because I can't do templates. But I don't want to have C++ style templates because they suck, so I need my own templating system. Oh, why don't I write my own wrapper system around all of this? That is both a build toolchain and a language in... Does this work? Cannot convert from expect result IO error. We're moving. Oh, because it's not okay. That should work. Yeah, that works. We need to replace all these with value. 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 Value, and then external function, I don't need to do that. That can just be write, writer, extern function, because I can't really print out any details about this at the moment. Boolean. Then I'm gonna append I to the end of this so that it's obvious it's an int, writer. Then this is a float, so we just do f value. String, this is where we get into the here. Now we have to escape those. We have to do self symbol string value. I guess this is more, this is ID. Why is this taking forever to, oh. Because it's not writable. And this is just unwrap or invalid symbol. That works, right? Yeah, and now I get to do the fun ones. Like objects. So this is going to be object. Yeah, when you're done writing code with code that writes code. I'll be in voice chat with the boys. Currently playing, I'll die, respond, switch later. Alright, I am down to join when I am tired of this. Which we will see. Because I'm actually making progress on my to-do list this time, instead of whatever I was doing last time, and I can't really remember. I must have blocked it out from my memory. Now we have to do self object equal self objects ID of the object. We're just going to let this assert and fail if this value is invalid. Just panic. Entire program crash. And then object members. You know what? I'll do this the writer-friendly way. We'll do we want to do new line? Let's not do new line. There's a one line everything. This will be utterly unreadable. Okay, so now we say for member in object members, reference that. Then we want to do self dump value. After we do writer, then we want to do the label, and then do I want to put spaces between this so it's readable? We'll do a space here. Then member label, and the label has to be self symbol string, because again, I want to completely avoid doing string lookups during runtime, so we don't. They're all integers, which means I have to, whenever I actually want the string that's represented by this, I have to look it up. So now we do why is this angry? There we go, now it's less angry. Self, and then member the value writer. I think we just want to put a I think there's an easy way to tell if this was the last member. I don't want to use the string join workaround because it's not super efficient. If I is equal to object members length -1, then we want to just write a space, else we want to write comma space. Unwrap or invalid symbol. Did it complain that writer was moved? Yeah, it was complaining that writer was moved. Can I reference writer like that? Can. Now move out of index of Vic object. There we go. And that prints out our objects. And I'm going to copy this entire thing for arrays. This is just a value, and the only thing we have to write is the actual value itself. There's no symbol string to deal with. We can just dump value, and then if I is equal to a length minus 1, that's all perfect, and square bracket, and we're good. Do we want spaces? I don't think we want spaces. Usually you don't do spaces with arrays. And then if this is a closure, I think for now, I'm just gonna have this be closure, and when I need extra debugging, I can add it in. But for now, this gives me what I need to actually debug stuff. So here in main, we can say returned let moot result string is equal to VM, or actually exe. I can just do VM here since we're not executing anymore. VM dump value result into ref moot res string. Then we can just return maybe I need to do format right instead. Now it's happy. Right still works. Happy in main? It is happy in main. There we go. Now when we run this, we should reach the recursion limit while instantiating. Can I say reference mut implements right like this? Then not need to recursively mutable it. Yeah. And there shouldn't be any actual recursion happening there. So why is there... Oh no! It's fine. Yeah. So now we get returned object, A5, B5, C50. So all that weird code I wrote worked first try. It was all the code surrounding it that was broken. Cool. But yeah, so we now have reassigning existing variables. That is working. Now what we need is closure variable capturing. This one's going to be fun, because what it means is that I have to add scopes. I need to add scope to my... Rather, I need to know in each function that I'm parsing. Right, I don't have a parser. I just have the thing I'm messing with right now. Let's go to our parse context. Ooh. That's actually something I want to add in. I don't want to accidentally implicitly create variables. So, which I know is like something people like in dynamic languages, when you can just say this variable name equals thing. But then all of a sudden you get into scenarios where scoping of variables gets kind of weird. And I very much like well-defined scopes of like, I know where my variables exist, and I know when they will stop existing. So what we're going to do... Brain work with me here. There we go. Always asking your brain to work with you. Google sets if it should implicitly create new members. This is implicit creation of new members, which in the case of let, we want to be able to do. In the case of in the case of let, true, we want to implicitly create. In the case of here, false. No. False. In here, oh yeah. Whenever you hear people, when you ever hear people boasting about number of lines, like, dude, it is actually like really easy to write 2,000 lines even as a solo developer working in your like off time. And a lot of times when you have a lot of lines of code, That's actually a bad thing. It means you have a lot of complexity in one file. For instance, this file is way too big. It should not have 1400 lines in it. But I'm being stupid and being lazy. The 1400 lines is because I'm lazy. I want to make that completely clear. If I was like going full senior dev on this, like it wouldn't have that many lines of code in here. That being said, lots of lines of code in a file isn't necessarily bad. Like it's contextual. For this, in this scenario, I have like parser code right next to virtual machine code, and the parser code, if I was actually organizing this correctly, the parser code should be in a different file. It's like objectively. But I'm lazy, so I haven't put it there. So like, it should only be a 700 line of code file instead of 1400. And then it might expand past that point when I expand the virtual machine, but at the current state, it's too large for what it is. Okay, what was I doing right? Implicit create. So we're gonna do here, set member. Does this return if not implicit create and self? You know what? We're gonna do the thing. Make it more convoluted for the funnies. I mean, it already is pretty convoluted. Dang, it doesn't have a set. Oh, actually, no, it probably does. Members, set. Please tell me it does. Set. No, no, it doesn't. Dang, so I have to say let old equal that value. We have to do that, or I could do it the cursed route, which is to do mem swap. Do a mutable reference to that. Do a mutable reference to old. And then you return some old. Then here, we want to return none. There we go, this is the more convoluted for the funnies. It reduced my line count and made the code look cleaner. But it is objectively more convoluted. Okay, going back to here, now we can check. And if not implicit create and old is some, so if there was an old value, wait. We want to do if this is not implicit creation and there was no old value. So essentially we check that we created a new value. Then we want to return runtime error. Then do I have a undefined variable, I do have undefined variable. So if implicit create, we can do runtime kind undefined variable. Label is a string, so we have to self x sim vm symbol string member label unwrap or invalid symbol into string. Didn't format, which means something's wrong somewhere. What is going on here? All right. That's still not formatting, which means... Oh joy, I accidentally... Where else did I accidentally paste this? Okay, we're good, I think. Show me the errors. It runs. Absolute cinema. Anyways, that was a complete side tangent. Now what do I want to do? After the complete side tangent, I need to get right. Parse context. Inside the parse context, we need... Oh, that's right. All this is amazing. I don't need to worry about it, because I create new parse contexts for every single function that I parse. Yeah, this is the type of code you get when you obsess about making custom coding languages for like 5 years, and then you decide, screw it, I'm not going to make a JIT compiled fast language. I'm going to just make like a stack machine, like garbage collected, slightly better JavaScript. And then you just work on it in your free time, and you're 3 days into it. Actually, no, I think I'm like 4 days into it now. Okay, so define vars, and then we track captured vars on the function. So we're gonna say we're just gonna have a helper function. Hopefully it's worth it. That's what I hope. That's why I hope it doesn't actually take me very long to get this working, because I do want to use it. I actually want to use it for things. I've spent too long making things that I might eventually use. I need to actually make something. Okay, so we have a symbol ID. Yeah, okay. I'm actually going to change this into a hash set. Find variables, hash set, symbol ID. We're going to say if let some, or actually just if self-defined bars contains label. Unit type, bounce truck hash set. What? Okay, there we go. Wants a pointer because templating. Okay, so if our defined variables contains this, we just want to return. And here we're going to say function define var. And this will just put insert label. Then in this case, if the function does not have a defined label, then we're going to first define the label so this one doesn't happen multiple times, and then we're going to say self function captured variables. We're going to push the label in. So what this is saying is, if this function didn't define this variable itself, then we're going to say, add to the function definition that it must capture a variable of this name when a closure is instantiated. And then the define vars is just so that we don't put more than one of the same captured variable into there. Here we can just do captured variables equals default. We love default. No capture. Oh, right. Defined variables. Cool. Now we just need to go through the Now we just need to go through wherever we define variables. So let is when we define variables. So wherever we do, yeah, so here's the let name symbol is equal to this. Then we need to do context function define variable like so. Now we've defined that this function does in fact define this. Ooh. But we don't want to define captured variables for script functions. So what I'm going to do is add a boolean to parse context that's just hub is script function. And in the case of virtual machine parse script, is script function is true. Oh, and while it's on my screen, I'm just going to remember to do if self is script function, just return. Don't do anything if this is a script function. Now here we say is script function is false. So for this function that we're parsing right here, we do actually want to fill out the captured variables for that. Okay, so we define when we track when we define variables, and now inside of var name, oh dang, I'm not accounting for variable scopes. Dang it. I'm gonna have to do variable scoping. I guess we have to. Have you put any more thought or work into the 3D scripting data flow visualization, or is that still too far down the road since you're working on foundational systems? So I put the entire brain project on pause for a bit. I've thought about it, and I love like doing graph visualizations, but it's not necessarily something I'm thinking about too much at the moment. Especially because that was on like my oh, I'm gonna make BrainScript like a pure functional language and everything like that, which was only a couple month-long phase. I still think it makes a lot of sense. It's just I don't have the time or effort to put into like creating the full vision of what I wanted to create there. Which this is actually what I'm writing right now is a similar system, but it's kind of like a just for fun, so I don't need to make it perfect. Yeah, it was basically Haskell BrainScript, but as node scripting. Because technically, the way that I was writing it would be like as cool as the Unreal Engine node scripting system is. I think node scripting systems like that fundamentally fail because they are imperative coding paradigms. You have to understand control flow in a node graph, whereas it's a lot easier to understand data flow in a graph like that, which is why shaders work really well with node systems and scripting not so much. But a functional programming language would probably do pretty well with nodes, because it is basically nodes defined as text. Screw it, I'm just going to use unwrap. Last move. And then for self scope in self-defined variables, if scope contains that label, then here we want to do define vars moot or last mutable unwrap. Okay. New we'll say push scope Push scope is just a self-defined bars push default. I just do pop like that. There we go. Now I also have to handle scoping. And in parse script, parse context, I want to do context. Push scope right away. We're not going to pop scope because it doesn't matter. And then here, inline context, inline. Need to push scope so it doesn't error out. Okay, now, we've already done that. Where is... Here, I think this, whether this is resolved or not, function reference variable, whether this is, yeah, this is always referenced here. So we're gonna reference this var path 0. Yeah, it's mostly, for me, nodes. It's like, if you know the actual names of the nodes and what you're going for, it's easy-ish to do, but like it's hard to read them. Really hard to read them. Like, if you have to read a math equation in nodes, it's like, here's the space that like a equation takes in like the node graph, and then if it's like in text, it's like here. It's like it's just a math equation. Honestly, that's my biggest gripe with nodes, is like how absolutely massive math equations get in node scripting. Completely like impossible to work with. Text. Can I do op open scope? No, I want to keep these separate. At least for the moment. That's so funny. Push op open scope, push scope, op scope, push op close scope. Does this work? We can test if it works. Actually, I know it doesn't work because I have assertions in 2 places that will crash the program if I try to run this, with functions actually defining captured variables, but I think the parser will work. So if this is running the old code, it will fail on C once we get the actual reading of variables working. So I need to find value. We need to actually, wherever we implement this, I need to undo my workaround that iterate function stack frame in reverse. We don't want to iterate the function stack frame in reverse. Instead, we just want to iterate over the current stack frame in reverse, instead of all function stack frames in reverse. So this cut off the workaround I was doing to allow this function to access C. So now this closure needs to actually do what closures do and capture the variable C. It needs to copy it on instantiation and store it as part of its own values. I think I'm gonna just push it into its args object. I'm not gonna add another scope here for us to look through. So I think I can delete this whole thing. So now we don't have the workaround for capturing things anymore. We don't have the workaround that lets us not capture things anywhere. So we need to do instan create. There we go, instantiate closure. Now, function definition capture variables, length. Yeah, okay. Is this a length of... Yes, it is, okay. I guess I just push them in order, don't I? Say let moot captured equals vec new for label in function def captured variables. We want to say captured here we need to do, we need find value, but we need find value we need this as a function. No, I just need to yoink all of this. Okay, let's see what blows up. Let frame equal self function stack frame last. Now we need label. We're not gonna push work value. We're gonna return some value. Will be a lot easier to reason about. Here we needed to that goes back to where I got it from. I'm just gonna sum value else return error like that. And now that is a reusable function we can use anywhere. I'm going to copy this entire block. Love watching code, write the writes code for more code for a specified user. Indeed, I do too. Let's see, so instantiate closure, here we go. So we need to find the captured variable. Every single one of these closures captured variables. We want to hash push captured var into here. Have I installed Linux yet? Do you see Windows PowerShell right here? Frame. Here we need to do self function stack frame last mutt. I'm getting lazy, I'm just using unwrap. If we go out of stack frame, the thing will crash. Oh, if I'm dual booting? No, I'm not dual booting. All my work is on Windows, unfortunately. Which is less of a problem if I don't have to use CMake for anything. I'm not using CMake for anything, so I don't have to worry about dependencies. Like, the nicest thing about Linux is the package manager for C and C++ dependency management. But I'm not dealing with that right now. Did this just work? Well, it looks like it just works. So now we have to go to call indirect. Where's value? So this makes us enter current structure. Do I actually ever label args value? Leave the root scope, args. Okay, good. Good. You know what I'm gonna do? For label value in self virtual machine. Closure ID. Here, actually, I'm just gonna reference the closure here. See, captured. Iterator. Zip. Actually, no. Where's my function definition? Ah, C def. Get that. Okay, and then let args object equal the self function stack frame last expect, or no, we can just unwrap it. Last mut. Then this object will be scopes 0 back variables, yeah. 0 I guess it doesn't matter. Actually, yes, it does. It does matter if I put them into args or not. If I put them into args, they'll be treated as function args, so then when we have like metaprogramming stuff that's trying to check the arguments of the function, then that might cause problems. So instead, we're just going to grab the scope ID, scope equals moot self objects, or self VM objects, scope ID, like that, and now we can do def function def captured variables iterator zip with our captured variables. Now, inside of scope, we can set member, label, value. Now, whenever we call a closure, after we've called, like, set up our function stack frame, we'll initialize a bunch of local variables to be the variables that we captured. Which means in find value, I need to change my thing here. Check the current variable scopes. We'll so that my comments are actually accurate. So theoretically, if I do this will still fail. But actually, no, it will still. Oh. It fails the way I expect it to. Undefined variable b1. It didn't fail the way I expected it to. I set argc. B is B, B is 3. It should have found C, because we check function arguments before we check scopes. This whole deal should have... Wait a second, but now I am... whatchamacallit? I'm pruning my function arguments, so this actually doesn't cause an error anymore. So what if b1 is a none, is a nothing value? That actually means it worked. If I set this to b2, the entire function will run. Wait, b1? b1? b1. Wait, I know what's going on. Function parameters aren't counting as defined variables, so we're setting these as captured variables. The function is trying to capture its own arguments. Find variables. Get a param. We need to push the oh no. Fine, I'll actually say the name of the thing. Now it shouldn't try to capture its own arguments. Okay. Op kind empty stack. Should never get that. Op index 21. Construct object. Function boot 21. We're doing function 2 is our first function. Object 2. B. Find value at that. Oh. That's a stupid mistake. Very stupid mistake. Wasn't pushing the value after I found it. Now, there we go. Okay. Find empty stack. It's still an empty stack. Okay. So our construct object fires off correctly. Really clean, so the resolve object. Find value. At some point here, I'm gonna have to make a source map so I can actually debug my code and figure out where it errors. That'd be really useful right about now. We try to call me. We have a construct object. The only time we have a call anywhere is here. This is the only call. Aside from here and here, this is the first call that occurs. We do not call anytime before this. This is all in function 2. Meaning that we're failing here. In here, we're constructing object. So we have construct object. Oh wait, I can just look here. A2, B2. We're constructing the object that we're calling the function with. That's the construct object. That was like, this isn't an object construction. This is, I forgot the code that I wrote 2 days ago. So G could be pushed to the stack right here, but it's not. Concerning. This function is this object is constructed just fine. As you can see here. It even correctly prints it out, which is very nice. Because, oh no, it does. Never mind. My code is more correct than I am. Because this is a closure. Because it's defined up here. Okay, so why aren't we getting the value of G? This is a problem with right before this construct, set member, the set member here is the last line. Like this line right here, the line after this one, this push string A2. This is when we start constructing the arguments for our function call, meaning the argument right before here is supposed to be a find value for G. It is not a find value for G, which means that there's a bug with this monstrosity. But the thing is, it successfully worked here, here, here. The object 2i, 3i. So at least in here, it runs correctly. Or more precisely, this is a different call to resolve value. So here we have resolve R value for function call. If path is not empty, resolve R value. So this is the R value call that is working. This is the R value call. It's not working. I just realized I have two function calls. The function calls that work for parentheses and the function calls for curly brackets, meaning we're never resolving the R value for the curly bracket version of function. We're just trying to call a function with only an object for reference. Meaning I need to fix my code. Example code. Undefined variable label C. What do they mean, undefined variable C? So we call it indirect, we push the string, or we find the value string. Right here. It's failing right there. Why is it failing to find the parse construct up? Oh, wait, no. We want to do. Well, indirect. Here's where we set up our stack param. So this like puts our execution context into the function. Then we want to go set member. Oh, value. Yeah. fine, they don't think. That is the most annoying thing about Rust that I've run into so far, that I would try to fix in a Rust-like language, is that I know that this member function does not overlap with the functionality of what's going on here. Like, I know what members this is accessing, and I know what members this is accessing, and there's zero overlap whatsoever. And the borrowing system isn't able to handle when borrowing chunks of objects, if that makes sense. And that's like, that's the thing that messes with me the most. Junior CS student who recently ditched using AI to cheat because they found that GPT will steal your confidence in your own coding ability. Good for you! LMs are like a great way to like search for knowledge, but yeah, if you're learning, I would definitely not use them to write your code. Because the only way I've found to learn is by just actually doing things. So I know personally if I used AI, I just straight up, I would stop learning. Unless I like physically did something. Like searching for knowledge, like great way to search for knowledge as long as you like, anytime it makes like a claim, you check the claim. Like if it like brings up like a API or something to use, you know, you search up that API and make sure to actually use this. You just try it if it fails. Yeah. But you're making the right decision. If you actually do like fully want to learn how to code. Okay, there we go. This isn't complaining anymore. Let's see if this is actually capturing variables. It doesn't look like it's actually capturing variables. Interesting. Running call indirect stack. We didn't print out any captured variables. SIMD and C++ are how linked lists works, and just regain that muscle memory so you graduate. Nice. How many years are you in? Because like SIMD and linked lists are like very different levels of complexity in my brain. Because like linked lists were like fairly early in my schooling, and I didn't get to SIMD before I dropped out. Vault closure has captured nothing. Okay, so the problem is Def prescribes how many things should this be trying to capture? Def prescribes 6. Okay, so this is a problem with when we instantiate it. 3.5 in years since I'm trying to be a game dev. Oof, tough time to try to be a game dev, but I wish the best for you. Taking C++ course that allows me to write C++ that runs fast on all processors. Ooh. So that would be where you're learning SIMD. Though SIMD is very that's usually very architecture specific, so it's interesting that you say all processors. Unless the course is literally like, here are the differences between all the different processors, and like the different things you can do on them to make it run fast. Then it's like, oh man, then you'd have to learn the SIMD intrinsics for like x86, 64, SIMD intrinsics for AArch 64. Those are the two main ones. There's like one phone architecture you might have to deal with. But it's mostly ARM 64 and x86 64. The main architectures you have to deal with. Variables, right? So the problem isn't here. And I'm actually going to assert equal here. Since this zip will fail silently, I need an actual assertion here. Using MMX SSE 4.1 to do matrix and vector math for graphics. Okay, so that's the Intel style one, right? Instruction for the Intel. Oh, you said it right underneath the math message. Intel Intrinsics Guide. Okay. Do those show up on the AMD processors? I forget. I think it's the same exact instruction set for both Intel and AMD. Right, so we need to do instantiate closure. Yeah, here. Wait. Oh. I accidentally forgot to actually put the variable in. So we were capturing variables, we just weren't actually capturing variables. Windows command prompt messing me up. Returned nothing. Nothing. Much nothing. Allows me to use Autodesk products like my Fusion. Ooh. Gotta hope whatever game studio you're going to afterwards uses those. Then again, like once you've learned how to 3D model, it can't be too hard to transition to other products. Like Maya is super expensive. You try to dive into embedded systems, and I think that's a decent start since I can use the code I write to make stuff. The Iron Man, let's light up and open. This is true, you can. Okay, yeah, if you're going more like the CAD route, then I guess, yeah, Autodesk makes a little bit more sense. So why isn't this capturing variables? It should be returning a runtime. Oh wait, right. It is capturing variables now. So now I need to figure out why this is returning a stack of nothing. We find the closure, we push string. We create the object for our arguments. We call this closure. Oh wait, am I in the wrong spot? I am in the wrong spot. Okay. Captured add equals extern function. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that is, yes, that is how that should work. Function with captured object. Then why do I get this huge stack of nothings? I'm not supposed to do that. Jealous of Blender users because they have all of these add-ons and tools that make modeling complex stuff only take 5 seconds, while Maya takes a decade. Maya? I thought one of the appeals of Maya was that you could also program it a ton. At least that's what enterprises really like it for. So Maya might have plugins. They just might cost money. Which might mean they're good, but it might also mean not that they're good. All in 0.9, it pushes nothing. Oh. You shouldn't be pushing up. Look at the definition of this. Push nothing, return. All indirect, push nothing, return. All indirect, push nothing, return. So for some reason, our parser is pushing a push nothing. I know what's going on. It's that atom I added in. And I now know a better way to do it. So here, I should not be doing that, let me copy the line real fast. I shouldn't be doing that there. I should actually be doing it here in variable assignment, because this is the only one that breaks it. So we do actually have a return value from this. And it leaves the variable path empty. And this maybe works now? It does work now. Return 5i. Perfect. Game devs are historically overworked and underpaid. I'm aware. I work at a game studio. I am very aware. I've worked in game-related startups my entire life. Thought it working at FromSoft, but I'm afraid of the overseas work culture being like a sweatshop where you only make enough to buy new socks. So, here, 1 second. So that's game dev culture. That's all of game dev culture. I'm sorry. All of it is, unless you like go to like stress level 0, where like the name is stress level 0 and they try to keep a good culture, like the average game studio you're gonna find is that. Yeah, you have to do it for the passion of it, just like the animators at Mappa. Yeah. Do not do game dev for the money or the restfulness of it. Do it because you want to. Because if you don't want to, you're gonna burn out really fast and be like really miserable. You have to be sure about it. And like me, like I really want to do it, and like objectively I have burnt out several times. In fact, like I'm currently in the process of recovering from burnout, and these streams are kind of part of that. But in the past, the streams have been something that have burned me out. So it's like, yeah, it's something you'll have to figure out how to deal with. But occasionally you have small wins like this, where it's like your code works exactly as you want it to, and you're very happy. Look at this. This is currently code that I'm running that I've written the interpreter for in like 4 days. Let's commit this code. That's the main one. So all that's left... Actually, negative makes more sense. I yearn for the Carmack.plan file, but I can't remember the syntax he used for that. Or I guess all the programmers used back then. We just need branching, but it's 11, and I have the job tomorrow. I don't need to fully implement array types, that's going to be super easy. Garbage collection, that's going to be, that's going to be fun. It's actually going to be fairly easy. I'm just going to forget to garbage collect some things and over garbage collect other things. Collaborating a game with some Discord friends is supposed to be a fun sequel to Thunder Force, a series of side-scrolling space shooters from the 16-bit. It sounds like a good idea. Theoretically, that sounds like a small enough scope that you would actually be able to ship it in the end. Oh, it says to make the boss encounter ideas. Ooh. If you have some art skills, that will help you a ton. One thing that I kind of regret is, like, I'm not very strong on the art skills, and that makes it really hard to get, like, anything actually shipped by myself, because that's what everybody sees. I do all the stuff people don't see. They feel what I do. Like, if I do what I do well, the game will feel a lot better than if I hadn't done what I do. But I can't make it look good. I can't make it sound good. I can just make it feel good. I wish I had more art skills. I need to develop more art skills, we'll put it that way. I'll do that eventually. Surface modeling, ooh. I do enjoy hard surface modeling. I can do a tiny bit of that if I have reference photos. I can't necessarily wing it, but if I have reference photos, I can do it. I think, yeah, I might be done with the stream for the day. I got everything I wanted to working. Nice. Yeah, 3D printing is fun. This is my latest 3D printing adventure. Very good movie. They broke the 3D printer out of storage for that one. But yeah. I think I'm done with the stream for the day. Got a lot of very good progress done. Let me save this. So, I'll be streaming again Thursday, so anybody who wants to, tune in again, usually starting 7 p.m. EST. What do I do when I'm stuck? If I'm not too stuck, I'll just think for a little bit, but if I'm really stuck, the best thing to do is actually just stop programming and, like, go for a walk. The solutions to your problems come to you when you're not bashing your head against the wall. They come when you're, like, on a walk, when you're trying to sleep, when you're showering. So, like, what do you do when you're refactoring, but you're like, where do I put this? That really comes down to... Dang it, you got me talking. I was going to turn off the stream. But no, I will answer your question. For me, it's mostly instinct at this point, so it's kind of hard for me to actually give a good answer on that. Mostly it's been just try to name things in the way that, like, you feel like a complete stranger with a similar body of knowledge to you would know what those things are named. Or saying, where do you put things? So I can't really give good answers on, like, where to put things, but, like, just logical groupings. Had to refactor a singly linked insertion sort to work with doubly linked lists. Singly linked insertion sort with doubly linked lists. Well, in that case, you could just treat the doubly linked list like a singly linked list for the most part. Just add in a little bit of extra interaction to, like, you know, here is the old pointer. The old pointer now becomes the next pointer, and the pointer to the object that you're setting on now becomes the previous pointer of the thing you're inserting into. Like, you can make it work. It will mostly be instinct. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Anyone can figure it out with enough time and determination. And that's the main way I figured stuff out, is you just keep doing it until either, like, you can't pay rent or you figure it out. Like, that's it. And with that, I actually am going to turn off my stream. See you guys Thursday. Bye.